In your experience, what do most people do when they reach the end of what they think is the finish line?
Oh, interesting. Because my experience is that most people don't reach the finish line prematurely, if you see what I mean.
Okay.
So most people kind of reach the finish line, and maybe some people never quite reach their finish line. But a lot of people, it's kind of on time, on target to reach the finish line. They plan to retire, they do retire. Life is all good. I think it's for the people who have either the accelerated, things go quicker than you expect them to, or life changes and your perspective shifts along the way, and actually your finish line, all of a sudden, it's not the same thing. So actually you're looking at it like, oh, it's not there, or it's not, I don't know, you started to run the marathon and halfway through you realised you needed to be doing a triathlon. Well, it's kind of all of a sudden the thing you thought you were aiming for is not the thing. Or some people just get halfway through and go, I really didn't want to run a marathon. Why am I out here? Why have I started? Mm-hmm. So I find that's the interesting thing. The not what you do when you get there. It's the when you get there and it's not what you expect it to be. I think maybe that's more the question that I kind of grapple with, because that was my experience.
Okay, so what was that experience?
That experience was, I call it accidental early retirement. Mm-hmm. So I kind of got to a point in life and everything had a plan. Plan was being executed, doing several things at the same time.
What were those things?
Run the business, property development. I'd had the corporate career, done all the things.
Okay.
But then, not suddenly as in it was a surprise, but it happened rather more quickly than expected. Business that I'd been running was sold. And it was the intention to sell it. It just didn't. We just didn't. Sometimes an opportunity comes up. Something comes across the horizon, you're going to go, yes, take this. But then all of a sudden, I was kind of like, oh, well, that was kind of my day job. That was what I spent not all of my time doing, but a vast proportion of my time. And so obviously when you part of, exiting a business, typically, if it's successful, well, I don't need to work anymore. But I didn't think I would get there so quickly. I thought maybe I would be 50 and I would get there. And then I had the whole plan. I could, go to art school and hang out, play golf, play tennis, just chill. Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden when you're 35, trying to do all that sort of stuff, and I did for a while, don't get me wrong, I dabbled. I, relaxed. But gradually, when there's no purpose, and this is what I found, without a purpose and without the balance of work, whatever work means, you basically, there's no rest, because that's all you're doing. So your rest becomes work almost.
When I mentioned the finish line earlier, what I'm thinking, right, is sometimes someone sells a business, but that's statistically actually very rare, right? As you know. Sometimes it's even just reaching retirement, like you said. And I can imagine even people who reach retirement, it's their whole plan. A month goes by, 6 months goes by, they did their resting. They're like, I'm kind of bored. Yeah. And actually, it's interesting that usually when people reach retirement, I think, on average, they're in their 60s or whatever. That's when they start to really age. People don't become elderly until they retired, even if they're of what we would call elderly age. Let alone when you've got all the energy of still being in your 30s, like what you're describing, right? So I guess what I was wondering was, when you reach that finish line, what choices do you have? What do you see before you? Choices, do something else. Yeah. Choices, just rest and chill. Yeah. Choices, maybe something else, but you see people, they keep working to their 70s, their 80s, because they're like, I'd be bored. Yeah. Work is this kind of bad word almost, because it feels like it's imposed on us, where the societal norm is something we don't want to do is imposed on us. Yeah. Actually, I love what I do. If I get social connection from that, if I feel purpose from that, whatever. So, walk me through what your moment in your mid-30s was like, going like, I can keep doing stuff. There's no reason I can't keep doing stuff. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the show or back to the show for those of you who aren't new here. Getting lots of new faces these days, and so I just wanted to take a quick sec to introduce myself. Hey, I'm Seven, and also to give you a quick announcement. As a little bit of background, this show used to be very focused on what it meant to be a leader, but I quickly realized I already had my answer, which is that I believe you already are one. And it's just about becoming more of that person you want to be. So we're talking about the world, self-leadership, personal development, humanity, discovery, self-discovery, and so much more. This is a place where deep conversations happen in a way that helps you become more of that person you want to be. And so if you appreciate that and you want to help us grow, but I know you're tired of people hearing, we've been hearing this for over a decade, like and subscribe and share the episode, and I get it, but look, it is genuinely the biggest and best thing that you can do. I don't play ads or any crap like that. I do this and take this time to say thank you because I appreciate you and where this show is going. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Lots of love, and let's get on with the episode.
I guess for me, a little bit is the why I was retired. So because that I was financially stable enough that I didn't have to immediately go and get another job. So a lot of people will have to do that. And partially that's because of other life choices, like not having kids. So I don't have that massive drain on my finances, and I don't need to leave, whatever, school fees or university fees or whatever for people. So literally, I just need to take care of myself. So that paints a very different picture in terms of the economics of what's going on. So I think it's important to be honest about that. So that's kind of what, for me, there was no pressure. And quite often it's people talk about the hunger. Well, if you have enough to eat, you're not hungry. I know that whole thing about, you're walking around the kitchen looking for something to eat, not because you're hungry, but because you're bored.
You're bored.
You're trying to satisfy something, but the sense of hunger. But when you don't have that for one thing, and but what I found was that the options were too many. I could do anything. And I wrote a post this week about, I had this weighted spreadsheet, all the options and different factors with different weightings according to what I wanted from life. And I think I had 6 or 8 options. And 3 of them came out with the same score.
Okay, that's really helpful.
Exactly. And you're like, oh, okay, well, what do I do with that now? So it's not just about logic. There's also something else about kind of what drives you, what your values are. And for me, I guess taking the express route to the finish line, which wasn't particularly intentional, but that's how it worked out, meant that then I suddenly had to, I guess, reevaluate what I did want from the rest of my life. So if I'd probably stayed on that other track and slowly getting to where I thought I wanted to go, or where I did want to go, I probably would have been happy enough. But now I'm kind of like, okay, well, that game's finished. It's kind of almost like when we take that board game away, which one do you want to play?
Yeah. It feels like the question we're actually asking ourselves here is, what do you do when you can do anything?
Yeah.
Because the choice, it's like being in the grocery store. There's 8,000 cereals. How do I choose? Like, the human brain is actually not good at making that choice.
No. Oh, yeah. Whatever. Cognitive overload.
Yes, exactly.
Is too much. But it's not, and that's a classic coaching question, is that if you won the lottery tomorrow, what would you do? I'm like, well, that doesn't help me, that question, because that is the question that I have. And I think when there's no possibility of it being removed, it's a good question and helps you think. But when that is your reality, it's like almost you need a different question. I don't know why that is. Why does our brain work like that? That it needs the constraints, or it needs some sort of, what really matters, sort of, if this was your last day on earth, would you want to spend it doing this?
Yeah, well, it's the projection into a reality that another part of our brain knows doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And so it's like, here's how I would operate, but like that isn't realistic. Like the question just gave like, so when someone asks you for another take on that question, just asks was, or might be, if money wasn't an issue, what would you do? And it's like, well, it doesn't matter because it is.
Yes.
And then you're like, okay, but what if? And it's like, and I know what the answer. So like, I'll give you me as an example because I'm in this particular place. So a very different life place, maybe to you. right this second, where I'm like, here's what I would do if money wasn't an issue, which is I would travel all around the world, podcasting, writing, and maybe doing the occasional training of other people. But even training is something that I would postpone if I didn't have to make any money. But realistically, and that's because writing isn't going to make me any money for a long time.
Okay.
And I'm just loving that. And same thing with podcasting.
Okay.
Right? It might make me some money sooner than later, but like podcasting is a slow and saturated game. And so I'm like, cool, but that doesn't help me. The classic answer is, okay, well then use that to like figure out how you can do that. I'm like, that is what I'm doing, which means not doing that full time. And then so I just ends up being a frustrated forever loop.
You know? I get, it is challenging though, isn't it? When you are a coach and you're trying to apply your own coachy techniques to yourself and your brain kind of knows what your trick is. So it's kind of like, you know, like when you try to surprise yourself, it doesn't work. Or you would try to tickle yourself, it doesn't work. Your brain knows what's coming. That those questions don't work. But if you took that to a coaching session where and you were really challenged on that and pushed on that question, like actually, you know, what does stop you? Airbnb or other platforms are available around the world, and doing a podcast in a different city, lining up your guests to be people in that location.
In the end, there's always something.
There's always something.
There's always something, usually coming down to money, but there's always something. I mean, if we were to have a framework to answer this question, right? What do you do when you can do anything? What would that be? How would you walk me through that?
Well, all I can tell you is what I'm doing for me.
Okay.
Which is going back to basics and trying things. Because I guess the goal that I previously had was formed so early in life by, you know, all the social norms and expectations and whatever, society around me, family, all that sort of stuff. That was the goal of what a good life would be and what the people before you had done to enable you to get there. So like your parents make sacrifices and their parents made sacrifices, and so it goes on. And so you kind of like you're building on all of that in the first goal. Great. But now I need a pretty blank sheet of paper. Go, done that one, and what's mine without any expectation, or what is it now? Because I'm a different person to the one I was when I, you know, started, packed my suitcase, moved to London. Very different to what I want now. So for me, it's trying lots of things. It's kind of dabbling, and also I think the what got you here won't help you. So previously, I had an absolute goal that I was working towards, and just eyes on the prize, head down, work towards that.
And that was selling your last business? Or?
Yeah, I guess it was more tied up with financial freedom, about being able to make your own choices, be your own boss, make your own decisions, work when you want to work, but ultimately you decide. So that was kind of the goal. And that's largely been achieved. That's not to say that I don't do some work now. But if I had to, I could cut back my lifestyle to a place where I wouldn't need to work. But we've already said we need work, we need something, we need purpose. So for me, it's the trying out lots of different things and getting comfortable with not knowing the answer before I start. And that kind of goes back to the spreadsheet thing, that I thought that I'd just be able to figure out there would be one right answer for what I would do now with the rest of my life. So I've spent, what did I just say? Okay, so 15 years or a bit more if you count university, working towards one goal and achieving it. So let's call it 20 years. That I thought that I'd be able to figure out one answer for the next 20.
Okay, so you're expecting this goal to give you whatever you wanted for the next goal, and that one presumably for the next goal. And so it'd always be a new goal.
Yeah, but also there'd be an answer. There'd be a specific thing, an exact thing that you could write it down, and you could just, once you'd figured it out, that'd be it. You'd be going for it. That there is an answer. And I think that maybe that's also part of the growing up, and maybe why other people maybe come to terms with they don't quite hit the goals that they had, because actually life changes and your ambitions, and you learn things along the way, and actually realize that maybe some of the lessons that you learned or mislearned when you're kids. So, you know, we pick up things and that's not what people intended to teach us. It's just what our little brains picked up at that time and kind of set it in stone when they heard it one time. So I think that for me is the hard bit, is the letting go, picking one thing and just going with it, just seeing where it goes and not trying to be prescriptive with the answer or having a definition of success almost, of saying, well, what makes it enjoyable? Do you want to spend your time doing it? You know, if this was your last day on earth, is this what you would want to have spent the day doing? Those sort of questions, rather than the old kind of framework I had, which was very, like, I guess, goal orientated, like really, and very metric driven goals. You know, when I have this much money in the bank, I'll be happy. Great, I have it now. Okay. And not that I'm unhappy. I'm not saying that money doesn't make you happy. It certainly gives you freedom and choice and all that. And
which can make you happy
which can make
as
you
a consequence,
yes.
But it's not the
be all and end all. It's not having the money. It's maybe the process of getting it and then what it enables you to do. But certainly there's something else that we don't work just for the money, or well, we do, but if we're lucky, we get to not. I think that's so that for me is kind of like looking at my blind spots and kind of how I am as a person, maybe the unconscious things and the rules and what do they call, like mottos, you know, those kind of like black or white thinking or whatever your thing is. And we all have some sort of kind of ingrained, long-standing approach to life that probably doesn't serve us anymore, but we keep doing it because it's so ingrained. And for me, it's that the know the answer. I have to let go of that and just go out there and follow several paths and be happy also. And this is the hardest bit for me, is to start something and then say, actually, that's not for me. Because that's like admitting defeat and saying, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, I don't want to do that.
I mean, if I was a client of yours sat in front of you and I said me making this pivot would be admitting defeat, or even this original thing of, you know, how do I know what the right goals are to set? How do I know what happiness is if I'm going to be happy? Then what would you say to me? What would you walk me through? What questions would you ask me?
Yeah. I guess it's much easier to call other people on stuff and you go, well, and you just break it down and you go, what evidence do you have for that? And you kind of, there's lots of different ways of answering those, but I think that's the challenge in this, that people, when you're by yourself, it's really hard to get out of those, and you don't even let yourself answer the questions. You kind of almost jump to the answer. You need someone else to slow down your thinking and just make you elaborate, articulate, let things settle and kind of come out of your mouth and back in through your ears.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a big difference from what floats around in your head that's never verbalized to when you actually say something.
And what if I don't have that person, right? Times are really tough for a lot of folks right now. I do some coaching for other folks, but I also know that right now having a coach of my own isn't on the cards. Like that's using me as a literal example, right?
Yeah.
What can folks do for themselves to help, as you say, slow down? Yeah.
Well, I would enlist a friend then, someone else, like a thinking partner. And you can give them, well, you could always try the old ChatGPT as well, the route, but they tell them what you want them to do. Like, I don't need your advice. I just need you to challenge me and ask me some questions.
That's a great sentence, actually. I love that. A lot of people are using ChatGPT for this. I would really personally recommend, I don't know what you think, another person, like you said.
Yeah.
ChatGPT has been very concretely proven to tell us what he wants to hear.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean if we prompt it right, it can still ask us really useful questions.
Yeah.
But it can get almost a little bit addicting to have it continually give us the thing that it has been programmed to know we want to hear. Whereas a friend can go, I know you really well. I love you. Bullshit. Yeah. You're chatting shit to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or, again, like you say, look, I don't want advice. Yeah. I want you to challenge me. Ask me a tough question. And something it feels like you almost said, but didn't quite say, where it's like, here, I can almost give them the list of things to ask me back.
Yeah.
Here are the questions I really need someone to ask me right now. But it just doesn't work when I ask it myself. So tailor these, adapt these. But here are the things. Ask me these questions like a conversation. So you're almost like you're prompting ChatGPT,
Yes,
but it's another person who knows you well enough to give you what you need.
And I guess it's a bit like really what it is, boundary setting, isn't it? Which we certainly don't do it here. Telling people up front what you need, you know, and it's that kind of classic where we go into the gender stereotype, man-woman thing, you know, woman has problem, man tries to solve it, and woman says, I just want you to listen to me.
Yeah.
But that idea that actually sometimes we don't need it to be solved, we just need to be able to say it out loud or have someone else go, no, that is a tough problem. Actually, that is sticky. But that's what I would do, that if you don't have the funds to go for a professional, then find a friend who is good at being objective and doesn't just want to, you know, tell you everything's all right or, you know, do the kind of tell you what you want to hear. But hopefully you have someone like that in your circle, or even acquaintance. Sometimes that's better. Someone who doesn't quite know you.
And what do you think pushed you to be the person that had that strict finish line, working really hard towards it in the first place, right? What's your story? What's the context you grew up in that led you to setting a goal that you were working so hard to achieve that you achieved it ahead of time?
Nothing very exciting. It's probably the classic eldest child girl thing. You know, be good, get good grades, don't cause any trouble, don't fail your exams, you know, just be good. Don't cause any hassle. You know, that whole, children should be seen and not heard. That was definitely a motto. So you were just expected to perform. And if this is maybe, as I just speak for like an Irish society thing, there's definitely an expectation of like academic qualifications. Like that's really important and really valued because, you know, maybe you won't have a job here and you have to go to a different country and it'll be good if you have a qualification rather than not. So there's a little bit of that of just, it's not some, I don't think it's people pleasing. A lot of people talk about that, about just want to be, but it's the kind of goal oriented. Well, you know, if you think I can do that well in exams, I'm going to do that well. And that kind of, and there's a little bit then of once you reach a certain height, then you're expected to fall in that box, and so there's really no question about it. You're just going to continue. So whatever you do well in your, in Ireland what we call a leaving cert, you go to university, you do well there, you get a good job, which means in a corporate, being a whatever accountant.
At Google in Dublin or something, yeah.
Yeah, I was a little bit before the Google era, but yes, equivalent accountancy back in my day would kind of be the ultimate job if you weren't going to be a doctor or whatever else. So I think largely it's that sort of that's family expectation, and certainly like my wider family. So there's a lot of not just sibling rivalry, cousin rivalry, and you know. I mean, this is very stereotypical. Grannies comparing notes. Well, my such and such did X, Y, and Z, and it's a bit competitive that the grandkids all have to measure up to each other. So there's a certain amount of, it's almost family honor, reputation, pride, in terms of performing and being, you know, what their measure of success is, which is academic, good grades.
And that pushed you to go, I don't like this, I don't want this, I want more than this. What do you think the impact of that was?
The impact was to perform. And I guess then, well, if you can, it was very much, if you can do it, you should do it. If you're able to do it, you shouldn't, you know, if you have, the very Irish phrase is brains to burn. If you have ability or talent, then you should absolutely apply yourself and do as well as you can with whatever you've been given. So I guess that's where it pushed me towards. And then the wanting to be successful. So then a lot of the narrative is, if you don't get a university degree, you will never be very financially secure. So there's an absolute link between those two things. That's how you're going to live a good life. And I guess I just believed that. And I was like, right, that's what I need to do. I can do that and go out there and I can earn that cash. And it was quite, but kind of almost taken for granted. There wasn't a lot of questioning about it. It was kind of like somebody almost put me on a track and go, those are the hurdles, off you go. And that's it. Not very...
Well, I think it's really formative, right? It's not about how exciting it sounds externally. It's like, to set yourself a really tough goal, you need to have something that prompted you to set such a tough goal.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's other people's expectations. And maybe that begs the question is like, how much of that was internally generated in your desires and how much was a reaction to other people's, or some balance of both? And how, like, is one of those things better or worse than the other? I don't know.
I think there's a different approach for every person. And I see it where it goes wrong, where the person isn't academic, but let's say everybody else in their family is. And that's a really hard place to be, because it's almost, it's almost a bias. It's kind of like, well, you come from that box over there, so you must be good at this. And I certainly benefited from that, because where I grew up was a really small place. Like, everybody knows everybody. And even to the extent of, it's not just people knew, kind of people of my generation, people knew my parents, knew my aunts. So like when I went to school, they're like, oh, well, you're related to them, so therefore you're going to be good at this. There was kind of no question. And so if that doesn't hold to be true, that's quite a big weight of expectation. So luckily for me, I was able to live up to those expectations and I didn't feel bad about it. And I guess I got validation and kind of whatever reinforcement from it. Yes, yay, well done, prizes on prize day and all that sort of stuff. And in fact, in some ways, I think that actually I could have been pushed a lot harder academically. I did okay, but I didn't, by no means, kind of excelling sort of thing. So I went to a rural school. Like, this is not like the London experience where, parents are competitive. Like, you go to a school that is closest to where you live. That's it. That's the one there's no kind of competing or no extracurricular activities. Like when I was a kid, well, piano lesson maybe, but that's it. And so it's, for me, in hindsight, I'd say I could have been pushed a lot harder to achieve. But I guess I had to do that for myself. And where did that come from? I don't know.
We'll set what we think is our finish line.
Yeah.
For some reason, and sometimes those reasons are really helpful and healthy, but most of the time it's to prove ourselves. Or because someone else told us we should.
Yeah.
Because I think I need to. Society says this is what good looks like. And sometimes that means we end up making decisions we didn't want to make.
Yeah.
Sometimes it means, or sometimes not doing that means you make decisions we definitely do want to make.
Yeah.
So you decided, for example, you wanted that financial freedom or whatever else. And if I'm sat listening to this going, I don't know why I'm doing this thing, but I don't like why I'm doing this thing.
Yeah.
I think it can be, but I want your perspective on, can it be helpful to go, why do I want this thing? Well, maybe it's because I just want to prove myself. So does that mean I don't think I'm good enough? But then, okay, what would I do if I didn't need to do that, et cetera? So walk me through how you would walk me through that thought process.
It does come back to that. What do you really want? And one of the bits of advice that I got was about by feeling your feelings, like eat, and that's why my spreadsheet didn't work. What does your gut tell you? Like, how do you feel it in your body? Like, when you go every day to do that job, are you happy there? Are you content there? How does all of those things, like all that information that we just discount, we push down, we just kind of plow through because we place so much weight on what we're taught when we're kids. And doesn't it all go to the fitting in piece? So like, why do we do because somebody else expected, and why do we conform? Because we want to be in. We don't want to be in the out crowd. We want to be in. We want to be safe. We want to be in the tribe. The tribe wants us to do this. Absolutely, bells on. Here you go. That's me doing it. And I think, this is my perspective, I think that life has shifted so much so quickly, like over the last couple of generations, that all the advice that our parents gave us doesn't really work anymore.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
And that's kind of hard to take for both parties, because one, you kind of, everything your parents told you, you thought they're great. And you don't want to let go of it. But equally, they were only doing their best for you, but maybe they didn't set you up in the best way. So kind of, so one example I can give, like my parents, like never had finance. So.
As in, like, they didn't teach that to you, or they didn't have spare finance?
Like mortgage.
Oh, I see.
So like no credit card, none of that sort of.
Oh, I see. Okay, so financial literacy.
Yeah, that's about. No, I guess the other way.
Basic, but.
Well, so if you go on the ethos of neither a lender nor a borrower be.
Oh, I see. Okay, fine. Yeah.
And you live like that, but not everybody else doesn't live like that, and so therefore, relatively, your experience in life, versus what everybody else has at school or all those other things.
You have no credit card. Yeah, therefore you have no credit score.
Yeah, you have no credit card, but we're not going on holidays because we're not just putting it on a credit card and paying it for the rest of the year. We live according to our means, which is quite a different philosophy than most how people live. But also it doesn't set you up for working or living in a society where everybody else thinks differently. So maybe it can be a strength, but it also makes you a real outlier, and you're kind of not competing on the same field as everyone else, because you're applying different rules to yourself. You're playing the game by a different set of rules, which is fine if that's your choice. But actually, it's just more to illustrate the point of how a lesson and a way of living that they had evaluated was a really worthwhile thing to do and never get in debt, and it kind of sounds sensible, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. But actually, on a practical level, it has so many more implications, even just down to, attitude to, say, taking leverage or financial risk and things like that, which fed through.
Fed through how?
Well, so so I would have the same sort of approach. Like, I don't have credit card debt, and I would play the system a little bit more, as in, 0% credit cards back in the day when that was a thing, and moving the money around, but never borrowing if I want something, save for it. Mm-hmm. Nice. But, if I want a car, I save for a car, I don't get a car loan.
Yeah. And suddenly, though, the rules that apply to them don't apply to you, at least not in the exact same way. Maybe there's lessons learned. I thought about this a few times in a way that I think sounds really harsh if I say it really bluntly. So I'll say it as kindly as I can, which is, for a long time, we had respect your elders because they've been through it and they've got that wisdom. I believe in respecting everybody, right? But we had this very specific, all respect goes to the elders, and they give wisdom back to you. So that was an elder's place in society, right? Now, when I think about my one remaining grandparent, for example, there isn't really any wisdom passed down. There's, being stuck in bad habits they've been in for decades, believing that it's now too late for them to change, or, not understanding how certain things work. Diet is way worse than mine. So it's like practically what is there to learn. And when all wisdom is available online, I need experiential wisdom that is either no longer applicable or they need to be really clued up about how it would apply to me. I think we have a couple of generations of people that were given really unhelpful information, right? I mean, basically, as soon as capitalism allowed us to have much more, with it came here's society's norms. So if I think, for example, you'll see a lot of elderly people that have this really bad hunch, right? That is just one example. To me, I don't know why exactly. Maybe it makes some indirect sense, but for me, that is the physical pointer towards, or the physical representation of, I was told that this is how life works. I did all the things I was told I was supposed to do, and it didn't give me what I was told it would.
Yeah.
And now I don't quite have the same level of wisdom to pass down as I might have when we were in tribes, and the elders had all this wisdom because we didn't have books and the internet and whatever else to teach it to us. And so we've lost, or the people we have now that are elderly don't have the same role in society. If anything, they're treated like big babies. And that isn't fair, it isn't nice, but also is a kind of semi-practical one-for-one result, in the sense that if I give you that value, I treat you as someone who gives you that value. And that value isn't being given because they're sort of the victims of the transitional period we went through.
I think so, yeah. I think it's about the shifting structures and about everything's changing. So we're moving the furniture around, but we haven't quite got it right yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, I guess some people still have wisdom and lived experience.
Yeah.
But it's not directly applicable in the way that it used to be. Yeah. So, broad things still work. Why does Dale Carnegie's book still hold true?
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually, because it is a really good book.
Yeah, and you kind of I remember the first time I read it, I was like, I can't believe this was written in the 1920s. Like, it's just...
It's like a century old now. Yeah. Ha! I forgot about that. That's a good point.
So there's, yes, but the applicability. So it's that kind of, like applied maths or applied business, whatever, you got the theory over here. But actually, what they learn, the lessons aren't as applicable because, yes, everything's moving so fast and changing, and we're not quite getting with what the restructure is going to be. So, yes, there is that, shift in.
So maybe what we need is a new understanding of what happiness is. I mean, what's your take on what happiness is? I know I know everyone's got their own versions, but
yes.
I sort of mean structurally, not like what makes you happy or how does one become happy, but what is our understanding of what happiness actually is?
Well, I'm going to answer two things on that. One is the kind of looking back, and I'm like, I don't think people in the past had any expectation of being happy.
That's a really good point, actually. Yeah,
like they didn't really I don't know. It really does depend on maybe where you came from, what your background is. But I guess where I grew up, the expectations weren't very high in lots of ways. But equally, then there's a lot of, and I won't say happiness, I'll say joy.
Yes.
What we term as crack. So, conversation, banter, and it's so, like, in Ireland it is so different. Like, conversation is almost a competitive sport.
Oh, interesting. Really?
Oh, definitely. Like, there's a certain amount of pride and challenge in having a conversation. So if you go into a bar,
okay,
and you're talking to people you don't know, there's this sort of, at the dance-off, there's almost that sort of vibe where it's about having good conversation and about having a crack and, can we make each other laugh?
I feel like I need an example of this because I love this because I love cultural differences, but I can't imagine a competitive conversation because that means you're getting something out of that. You need to describe this to me.
Well, I suppose it is, like, you do have it here in the UK a little bit, how you describe banter, but it's that kind of, Irish people tell each other they love them by denigrating them. So, like, I would never say anything nice about you.
Yeah.
The first thing I would come in and I would comment, you would comment on my T-shirt and where did I get it? Was it off a clown? And then I would trade back with something for you, and it's that sort of, and who can get the best zinger?
Right. Okay. Now I see.
It's that sort of thing, and it doesn't have to be with friends. That can be with strangers, and you can meet people like that. So that's a kind of, to go back to the happiness, it's where do people get? And I think it's about moments of joy in your day. And for me, happiness is like, it's a fleeting state.
Yes.
I don't think you can't be happy all the time.
Yeah.
Because then it's kind of back to the original where we started, the balance. You need to work in order to make the rest restful. Otherwise, the rest is just work. And so in the same way, you need, you can only feel happy when you felt sad. it's the contrast between the two things that makes the experience. And so I think a lot of times what people are, when they're talking about happiness, what they're really striving for is contentment of that kind of, if you ever go through a period of stress and you kind of have that low level hum of anxiety just constantly buzzing in your brain. And when you don't feel like that, after you go, oh God, I feel, yeah. And it's not particularly happy. You're not kind of, but there's just a certain, I think maybe it's even contentment, and that's really for something to strive for, as opposed to the happiness. Happiness is a much maligned word. It's a bit like nice.
Yeah, overused and therefore cheapened.
Kind of, and there's not a real good definition of what it is, and I'm guessing it must mean a lot of different things in different places.
It might be, language and culture specific as well. That's a really good point. I think for me, you've used all the key words. Like happiness isn't an emotion. Joy is an emotion. If you were to list out emotions on a piece of paper that are distinctly separate to a state experience, happiness is a state experience. Yeah. Joy, I think maybe excitement as well. These are actual emotions. Yeah. And one could also argue that all emotions come down to two root emotions, which is fear and love, right? The reactive one, the proactive one. And happiness comes from that place of love, but it's that true happiness is truly in that moment a state experience that is whatever happiness means for you. But it's not like tick box achieved, boom.
Yeah.
There is something that strikes me that's interesting that I think would be fun for you to speak to. A lot of people, they'll put what they think is that finish line.
Yeah.
They'll have that strong goal, and it usually means making an enormous amount of money and sacrificing everything else to make that happen.
Yeah.
And it's so commonly spoken about and understood now that, quote unquote, money doesn't make you happy, right? Yeah. Like you said, yes, it can create freedom, and those things can lead to some impacts on happiness.
Yeah.
And yes, having a good amount of money is always helpful. And I completely agree, and I want to make lots of money too. But those who make money, they're making money their entire existence.
Yeah.
There's from every successful person will always say, this is not everything.
Yeah.
This is a path to some things maybe or whatever, but it cannot and should not and cannot be the main end goal to have loads of it. And the response to that is always, I'll believe you when I get there myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not something people ever listen to.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't I know money doesn't make me happy, but I'm going to do it anyway because maybe I think I'm the outlier. Yeah. Maybe I just don't believe you. Yeah. Maybe, I think that's the way you think, but it won't be the same for me. And so I will only listen to that by proving it for myself, by sacrificing everything and then feeling like crap when I hit the end of that line or whatever. So, I mean, what's your take on having actually lived through that, making your whole life about making money and then, not listening to that wisdom until you get there yourself and it's like, oh, I'm here now.
Well, first of all, no one ever said to me, really, it wasn't part of the narrative that it wouldn't. So there was no expectation that wouldn't be the be all and end all. But I think it's a very abstract term. I mean, what does money mean? Like how much? Do you want to make 1 million, 10 million, 50 million? Do you want to be a billionaire?
That's a really good point. How much is enough?
How much is enough? And you don't really starve because, of course, like when you're in your early 20s and you have no money, a little, it seems an enormous amount. But then actually when you start to add in responsibilities, and isn't this the apocryphal thing about working in the city, that you're encouraged to spend your bonuses on fast cars and fancy things so that you're tied into the lifestyle and you have to stay at work. They don't want you just banking the first 5 checks and retiring. They want you to stay and make more money. So they want you to spend more money. And it's not quite a conspiracy theory, but it's one of those kind of things that this is really how the system works, that actually people think they'll go in the city and they'll work for 10 years and then they'll retire, but most people don't, because by the time they get through that process, they've acquired such a lifestyle that needs to be maintained that they have no other choice.
Which is so ironic, isn't it? But it's so common within that circle.
Yeah. So, but you have to be so sure of who you are and so intentional about what you want. And so that's what I find about people, like, that they don't know how much is enough. And for me, it's not the amount, it's the not knowing. Do you want to be a billionaire? Go for it. Like, if you have earmarked, the 10 different castles you want to buy and that's going to bring you joy, go for it. That's not really it. But actually, if you just wanted to be in the bank, then what's the point? And for some people, work in itself is a reward, and it's not actually the money either. They don't even care about the money. But if you're doing all of those things just for this number, if only that number makes you feel better about yourself, I think that's where the maybe dissatisfaction in life might be.
I wonder if what we're describing in the process of going towards that goal was like a tunnel visioning, right? This is what will make me happy. I've assumed that this, i.e. the amount of like money is the thing. How much money? Didn't ask myself that. What is happiness? Didn't ask myself that. And then I tunnel vision. All I see is tunnel vision. And I've got those blinders. I've got the horse blinders on, right? Maybe the interesting question is, how does someone know if they're tunnel visioned?
I think maybe that's the dissatisfaction question, that you're working towards this thing that you believed you want, but it's not bringing you any joy anywhere along the way. Whereas if you're working towards something that maybe is ill-defined, but you're still happy, well then, is there a problem there? No. It's only that kind of by exception. If you feel unhappy in life or dissatisfied, or that there's something else, or that that you're just not doing what you're meant to be doing, then those are the sort of things that, what are you working towards? Who decided that? When did you decide that? How close are you? Is it realistic? All of those things. And it's almost like back to basics, isn't it? Do you still want to go there? Is that still a journey you want to go on? Or actually, you wanted to go there when you were traveling alone, but now, whatever, you have family, you have friends, do you still want to go to that place? No, actually, I'd rather go to this other place and have all these people come along with me. I think a lot in journey metaphors, walks, climbing mountains, paths, like what's in your backpack, what can you take out of it, what can you drop down, all of those sort of things in terms of, moving through life. And for a long time for me, the metaphor was, if you're on the top of a mountain, I'm like, do I want to just climb another one just for the sake of it? Like, what's the point? I've already climbed up one. Like, I know what it's like to climb up and be at the top, and the view over there is the same as it is here. But is it?
Do I want the journey again?
Yeah.
Or the different journey? Because maybe I'll get a similar view.
Yeah.
Like A, the journey will be different because it's a different mountain.
Yeah.
And B, I'll still enjoy the view.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you'll kind of go back up again, or maybe there's a shortcut. I haven't quite worked out the magic tunnels in the mountain metaphor yet, but I'm working on that.
I like it.
But the other thing that struck me when you asked me about the goal and about how do I know, say something like, do you want to run a marathon? A lot of people know, I just don't want to do that. It's not for me. I don't care. And some people, yes, they can only know by doing it. When you get there, does anyone ever regret it? You never regret getting there per se, but you might realize that actually you sacrificed too much for it, whether that was your big toe or your whatever weekends with your family. So actually that wasn't a good trade-off. The training time and the time I took away from, like if you have kids, and you spend, I don't know how long people spend training for marathons, I've never done one. But you spend months and months and months, and kids grow up so fast, if you're going to miss 6 months, well, you never get those 6 months again. Like the kid is never that age again, that experience is gone. Was it worth that? For the free t-shirt? I don't know, but it's that sort of, when people ask that question, kind of, how do I know, or why I have to do it for myself? I'm like, well, then no knowledge would ever work then, would it? Because I could never tell you, don't jump off that cliff, you're going to kill yourself. Because you have to try it for myself. So there has to be some sort of, like kind of back to the elders thing and the wisdom of, okay, I'm going to hear you.
Yeah, this is something I just spoke about on the last guest I recorded with. I don't know if they'll come out before or after yours, but so regular listeners will hear this from me a few times now in a row. I have got a concept I call the discernment scale.
Okay.
So imagine now first we have a flat line scale.
Right.
One extreme end of the scale is I do not listen to anybody else. I do whatever I want, take no one's advice.
Okay.
Internal only, whatever I want only, probably pretty arrogant.
Yeah.
Other extreme end of the scale,
Yeah.
I'm kind of sheepish. I do exactly what everyone else is going to tell me to do.
That's
When you're right in the middle is what I would say your high discernment is the highest amount of discernment. I'm able to listen to other people
Yeah.
and discard or adopt their advice as I think is relevant.
Yeah.
I'm able to listen to myself, but also again know when actually maybe might not be right. Right in the middle is the highest discernment. Now I say, okay, imagine instead of a linear scale, it's a bit like the horseshoe model, right? So the highest point is the highest discernment point is also your highest agency point is right in the middle, and below either end of the horseshoe is either end of those extremes because they're actually more similar than they are different. They're both lower levels of discernment. They're both lower agency. They're also very similar in the sense that they're too single-minded, not very useful because they're in one of those extremes. They end up both being quite low down in the kind of usefulness side. And so it feels like what you're describing is maybe tunnel vision comes with that low discernment, and being able to see more clearly is the result of that higher level of discernment.
possibly. I don't know if it's tunnel vision and that go together. For me, yeah, tunnel vision is, it can be deliberate or not. I think that's the difference, isn't it? Conscious or unconscious.
Okay, maybe. I think what's going on in my head is as a result of, for example, only ever doing what someone else tells me to do, I don't think for myself. I'm therefore very unconscious. Yeah. Therefore, if I adopt a goal, I unconsciously keep going towards that goal, and I'm unable to see anything else other than that goal, and therefore tunnel vision, because people kept telling me to go to that goal, and I just kept doing it.
Yeah.
So almost tunnel vision becomes the results of, or can become at least one of the results of low levels of discernment.
Yes, but does that make it a bad thing?
Which part?
The low level of discernment. So what you're describing there is, I don't know who said it, but that the world is changed by unreasonable people.
Yes, yeah.
And so, yeah, their discernment might be low, but they just might be also right.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's a good point. How do you know?
Yeah.
Well, that's still tunnel vision, right? I'm just tunnel visioning and happens to be right.
Exactly. At the same as like sweet spot, great. You just keep going. And I think that's I think it's only a problem if it's a problem for you. This whole kind of idea of being dissatisfied or not quite kind of living the life that you want to live. And I think that for me, that's the thing about kind of what I'm doing now in coaching. Like I think, whatever, run your own business, whatever that is, like we call it entrepreneurship, that can be running a corner shop, or it can be, techie startup, whatever. I just think all of those things, you take a risk, you're on your own money, whatever. That's all on you. But I think if you can do it, it's a really great way to kind of design your own life, because you can flex up and down. You can decide how much money you want to make. If you want the Ferrari, you can set your targets in your business accordingly. And if you don't want that much, you want to work 3 days a week, or you want to work whatever 10 to 2 and do the school pickup, then that's fine too. But both of those things. But I guess it's when people don't feel satisfied in life, or that they're doing something else, or they are somewhere else. So whether that is, a lot of people I will see in particular kind of sort of small businesses, service businesses, it's back to the same question: how much is enough? It's just more clients and higher revenue, because that's what we're taught. More GDP growth. Mm-hmm. It's all about growth.
More.
But why?
Yeah.
Well, what do you need it for? What are you going to use it for? And actually, would a 4-day week be better than killing yourself on a whatever business that you're not really into. And I think that for me is the piece, is that there are some people who are tunnel vision and they've never questioned their life, but they're happy. Just let them go. What's her name? Mel Robbins. Or let them.
Yeah.
Whatever. That's fine. They're happy, but it's for people who have that sort of niggle and kind of, this just isn't what I want it to be, or they haven't even figured that bit out yet. It's that they're doing something that's not satisfying, that doesn't fill them up, that stresses them out. Yeah, they might be making loads of money, but then either they're spending all the money on, I don't know, whatever, takeaway food because you don't have time to cook. So like, what was the point? Work less hours than if you like cooking. It's that sort of what we kind of get caught up in, that whole kind of capitalist wheel. And we don't really step back, because who wants us to do that? And you just keep going.
Put the brake on a little bit. You can still have the wheel on the car, where the wheel doesn't always have to turn. You can sometimes put the brake on and take a nice big deep breath. And I guess reflecting on all of this in your journey, what would you say to your younger self now, right? That person who was told, here's the thing you need to do, and always needing to kind of create something, prove something to someone else, and then deciding, differently maybe as a result. And what would you say to her?
Well, interestingly, someone did give me this advice once when I was much younger. And it was just be good at what you do and the rest will follow.
Okay.
So I was doing an internship in a bank, and in the summer, as like summer job, and this guy was saying to me, what do you want to do when you finish your university course? Because, I may be able to, classic, pull some strings, or, get you an interview with, if you want to work in law, you want to work in a bank, you want to work in an accountancy firm. So this was, and I was like, I don't care, I want to do it, I'll make loads of money. And he was like, no. He was like, what do you want to do? Be good at it, and then everything else will flow from that. And I think that was great advice. Did I? No, I did not follow that. I was just like, no, I'm still going to go make loads of money. Or at least that's what I thought I was doing. I was kind of setting out on that path. And that I wasn't particularly swayed by being one profession or another, doing one particular job or another. So that's what I would say, that thing, it's kind of now what the ikigai circles, when you're younger, you maybe don't know as much about what you're good at, what you like, what people would pay you for. That might be harder when you've got no work experience. But that's what I would say, that actually for me, and it's there's an inordinate amount of impatience in me. And for me, it was just like, just crack. I just want to do and get there. So I can give you an example. And it's kind of how we do one thing is how we do everything. I did a J1 visa. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, but tell me what it is. Remind me.
It's a student visa, work study visa for the United States that you can get if you're a university student. And it's an international thing, but a disproportionate amount of Irish people do it.
Okay.
Obvious reasons. And so I went to the States when I was at university for a couple of summers, work, waitressing job, all that sort of thing. But how I approached it was, I got out there, I did my 3 jobs. I worked really hard until so you'd go at the beginning of June and you stay all the way. So what is it, Memorial Day to Labour Day? You'd go for that whole period to the beginning of September, and then you go back home, university. So I worked really hard up front. And then towards the end of the summer, I started kind of saying to the people who were like my friends, who, other Irish kids, and they were like, oh no, we can't go out now. They're like, we haven't done a tap of work all summer. We need to work really hard now to make some money to bring home. Meanwhile, I had done all my work up front. Mm-hmm. I had banked it, and now I was ready to party, but there was nobody else ready to party because they'd done all the partying in the beginning.
Okay.
And it's almost the same in career. It's that I was working really hard, focused. So I had a job, but we also did property development, and then it's property development and running a company. So kind of essentially having 2 jobs always in parallel. And then kind of the impatience because I've kind of got there too quickly. So I guess what I would say is that you can slow down. You don't have to do it all at once. And I would definitely, for anyone now, kind of have that advice, the idea that, you know, that there's retirement out there and that I'll do it all someday. Yeah, I don't think that someday is guaranteed. So actually, we should have a little bit of good all the way along rather than, yeah, what I had done. Tunnel vision, work hard. So I suppose what I want to share is that I guess I was lucky. I had a sort of a surprise break that gave me the chance to think about these things, that gave me time to reflect. And it's all worked out. Like, I haven't had this reflection because, you know, I've had some terrible, whatever, health scare or worse. So I guess that's my offering in terms of what I have seen so far.
Don't blindly front load or leave it until the last minute, because the key word there is blindly, right? If you use the context to more usefully plan what you really want, right? What if you really want is to go out with friends? Okay, maybe that changes things. So it's, you know, often we go to things with ourselves in mind first, expecting the context to like just bend around us, but they're both happening in parallel. This has been really, really cool. I've really appreciated this. I have the same closing question I ask everyone who comes to the show. So to wrap us up, the show is called Lost and Searching.
Yeah.
And what I really love to know from you is, right now in your life, what is the number one question that you feel you are still searching for the answer to?
It's kind of, I'm still searching for the right answer, if you see what I mean. So what we talked about right at the very beginning about there has to be a right answer, I'm still not wholly convinced that there isn't one. And so I guess that's what keeps me going.
Oh, interesting. And this is a right answer for life?
Yeah, what will I do for the rest of my life?
Okay.
You know, like when you're a kid and somebody says to you what you want to be when you grow up. I'm still looking for that answer. Even though I kind of know there isn't one, I'd still like there to be one.
Why do you think you're not convinced?
That I'm not convinced that there is one. Oh, but I guess experience has now shown me that there's so many choices and so many options that there can't be only one right answer. And that it's not something you can really target and hit. But in hindsight, you can see how you got there.
Well, why? And also the flip side as well. Why aren't you convinced that there isn't one? Like, why do you think there's a part of you that still thinks there must be one right answer?
Because I guess that's just so much part of the conditioning.
Okay.
That you just think that there's a thing and you just find it. Because people, you know, classic conversation here. Hello, what do you do? Like, that's everything about what you do. Whereas what I'd really like to say is, I do a lot of things. I do whatever I fancy. And that kind of eclectic, you know, are you asking me how I make my living? Are you asking me how I spend my days? Are you asking me what gives me most joy? You know, there's so many different ways now to live a life that isn't solely about what you do 9 to 5, Monday to Friday.
One of my earlier guests who was or is a coach and is the head of people at a VC firm called Zinc. He's worked with a lot of really ambitious people. And we had this exact conversation, you know, what do you do? And that's how you have to, you almost have to have that as something to whittle off. And she goes, well, if you don't know right now, it's perfectly acceptable to say in response, what's interesting me right now is, what's keeping me excited right now is, what's keeping my attention right now is, because that isn't, it doesn't sound like the initial thing you've been asked, but actually it's a perfectly grammatically correct way of responding to that. And that opens yourself up so much more.
I guess close enough, and people don't really care. It's just etiquette. That's just what we say. It's like, how are you, or how's the weather, whatever. We don't really want the answer. We just want, it's just something to.
And to hope you get something else, exactly. So have what's keeping you excited in your arsenal, you know. Look, Emma, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This has been really fun. This has been really kind of personal into your story, and it's actually fairly rare as well for me to hear from someone who like had the successes and then is like, it's okay to pause. Because especially with so much of the content we receive coming out of the US with like hustle culture and all these things, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And the next thing is the next day, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you.
Okay, you too.
Well, look at you making it to the end of the episode. Welcome. There's a lot more for you to do. If you're still here, there's a full playlist on YouTube down below. There's a recommended video probably somewhere around the screen or down below, and so much more. Give us a follow. Help share if you're here. Hey, maybe you enjoyed it. And look, this show only grows with your help. So again, I know you're probably bored of hearing it, but it would mean the world to me if you help us out and paid it forward and shared it around. And hey, you never know how this will help someone else. So thank you so much for being here, for being a part of it. Lots of love, and here is to your success. See you soon.